What's going on, everybody? It's Counselor11 here, and this is Eldritch Horror. So, feeling good after my Arkham Horror victory earlier today, I decided let's go right into it. Maybe I'm getting lucky. So, this is Eldritch Horror. It's kind of just everything here. I just wanted to show you all the stuff. Arkham Horror is a huge board that's very long. Eldritch Horror is a board that's very wide. So, it's going to be hard to get the whole board, and which I couldn't do with Arkham anyway, so we'll just be using a lot of camera turns to get this whole board in when needed. So here's the board. So the main difference, well, there's a lot of differences, but Eldritch Horror is a globe-trotting type of game where you're going from different cities, and you're going to Italy and North America, and you're heading to the Amazon, and then you're going to Sydney, Australia. So it's more about going across the world, where Arkham is just about being in Arkham, the city itself. And of course, there is an Arkham space. Arkham's still in it. So that's kind of the difference. The feel of the game is different because it's more of an open world of that way. So the game has obviously a lot of components and a lot of cards in the Arkham style. Here's all the cards that we're going to be going with at least now, and we may have to add more depending on how this game starts. So this video, I'm going to take you through how you set up the game, and then kind of show the characters we're going to play as and things of that nature. And then the next video, we'll kick right into it with the first turn of the game. So we're going to play with 4 investigators because that's a good balance, I think. Let's get going. So I have all the expansions and everything that they've released. All the cards are shuffled in for the expansions. This game, I feel you can do that fine. But one of the things that they added into expansions are things called prelude cards. And these are prelude cards. So we get to shuffle these up. And basically what these are different ways to set up the game. Before, you would just set up the board. You put the board on the table, right? Step 1. Step 1 now is to draw the prelude card, because this alters setup. This could add some of the expansion boards to the game, like Egypt or Alaska, and you could also just change the way the game. It just alters the way the game starts every time. So to give you a little bit of different feel. So let's see what we get in our prelude card. All right, let's see. Let's do a cut. All right, and we get beginning of the end. That does not sound good. Okay, let's see what this has to say for us. Over the past few months, the keystones of civilization have begun to crumble. Ancient libraries have burned to the ground, and many intellectual experts have died under suspicious circumstances. You've seen the clues and woven these events together to see a grand conspiracy. Some hidden society or unimaginable power is surely behind this, and you fear that the worst is yet to come. After resolving setup, okay, place 1 Eldritch token on the green space of the omen track. Okay, so sometimes it'll say before setup or during a certain step of setup. So this is after resolving setup. So we do all of setup as normal, and then we come back to this card. So I'm going to put it down, and then we'll do what it wants us to do once our normal setup is concluded. Okay. So we'll keep that one out. Okay, so obviously, phase 1, put the board on the table, right? Organize tokens. Create our gate stack. We're actually going to, so here's our gates. The other thing that matters in this game is because there's Egypt and the Alaskan sideboards, and because the prelude card isn't adding it, we still have a chance to get an ancient one that will add it. If you don't add the sideboards, you don't put the gates or the clues for the sideboard in the game, because if they ever would come up, of course, there'd be nowhere to put them. So we're going to have to wait on that to see if we're going to need these gates and sideboard stuff. But yeah, you organize your tokens. The clues are the same. There's clues that would go in the clues. Gates, our general clue pool, or general token pool, health, sanity, all that stuff. So now we choose and place our investigators. And we're going to do that randomly. And we're going to use 4 of them. So here's all the investigators that come if you get all the expansions to Eldritch Horror. There's a whole big stack of them. So we're going to shuffle these up best we can. And randomly draw 4 of them and see how we do. Shuffle, 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 shuffle. Okay, so let's see who we get. Should we cut this? Yeah, why not? Okay, we're just going to draw from like bits and areas. So our first investigator is Lily Chen, who is actually a pretty awesome investigator. Our second investigator is Mark Harrington, the soldier. Lily Chen is a martial artist, so I didn't say that. Our next investigator is going to be Silas Marsh, the sailor. And our final investigator is going to be Lola Hayes, the actress. Alright, so we got a sailor, an actress, a soldier, and a martial artist. Interesting combination. Okay, so we won't need our investigators anymore, at least for a while. What I mean by that is, in this game, as the same as in Arkham Horror, if your investigator gets knocked out, you don't actually lose the game, and the player who controls that investigator isn't actually out of the game. You get to draw a new one. So we may have to draw a new one eventually if one of our investigators is knocked out of the game. So we'll keep them off to the side and hoping that doesn't happen. Okay, so those are 4 investigators. And then we give them their health, sanity, and starting possessions. So let's just take Lily Chen, for example. I'll explain how her card works. So here's Lily. She is a martial artist. She gets 6 stamina, or 6 health, and 6 sanity. She has an action that she can use every turn, specific to her. Spend any number of health or sanity, then recover an equal amount of health or sanity. So if one is lower than way higher than the other, she can kind of move them around. And when you improve a skill, you may immediately improve that skill again, which is a really awesome ability. So that is her specific stuff that she can do. And this game has 5, different than Arkham, it has 5 skills. So there's lore, influence, observation, strength, and will. So these are the skills, and the numbers are the dice you roll for the checks, and just like Arkham, you need a 5 or a 6 to succeed. So she's really good at strength, she's good at will, and she's pretty much average at the other 3. So every investigator also, you flip them over, and it has a little backstory for them. It tells you where they start. She starts in China. And it tells you what items they get in the beginning. Now these over here is if they ever get knocked out of the game. If they get knocked out by losing health, then this card could eventually come into play. If they ever get knocked out from losing sanity, then this could come into play. So we don't worry about these unless they get knocked out. Okay? So that's how that works. So we're going to take a look at everything that these characters get starting-wise. And we want to give them all their items. And then we will have to shuffle the deck up after that happens. The decks that they get items from. So, Lily starts with a protective amulet asset and 1 lucky rabbit's foot asset. So an asset comes out of the asset deck, which is this monster deck that has gotten insanely big since all the expansions have come out. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to find everybody's equipment, and then I'll come back and show what they got, so you don't have to sit here and watch me shuffle through decks. So I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so I got everybody's equipment ready to go. So we already showed Lily what she some of her abilities. So the 2 items she gets is the Protective Amulet, which gives her a +1 will test during combat encounters. +1 will during combat encounters. And the Lucky Rabbit's Foot. Once per round, you may re-roll 1 die when resolving a test. So that is what she gets. Next we have Mark Harrington, the soldier. And here's Mark. And he gets, his action that he has is to, you and 1 monster on your space each lose 1 health. And his passive, you cannot become delayed or gain a detained condition unless you choose to, which is pretty nice. He gets 8 health, 4 sanity. His lore is horrible. At 1, his influence is average. Observation, I guess, is average. His strength is very good, and his will is very good. So he's going to be good at fighting monsters. He starts with the 38 revolver. It's a weapon item. Gain +2 strength during combat encounters. And with the kerosene, which allows him to discard this card to gain +5 strength during a combat encounter. So it basically gets rid of the card. It's a one-time use. But it is powerful. Now I'm looking at our guys. We have a lot of guys who are good at fighting and not very good at lore. But we randomly selected them, so here's Silas Marsh. He's the sailor. His action is move 1 space along a ship path, and then perform 1 additional action. So he's good at moving along the sea routes. His passive, if you are on a sea space, Investigator is on your space, roll 1 additional die when resolving tests. Useful. 8 health, 4 sanity. Terrible lore. 3 influence, which is pretty good. Observation is good. Strength is good. And will is all good. All 3s. Lore is just the one he's not good at. And he starts with the fishing net, and just that. Being a sailor, that's all he needs. You may reroll 1 die when resolving a strength test during a combat encounter. Reduce the damage of monsters you encounter by 1 to a minimum of 1. Okay? And the last one we get is our actress, Lola Hayes. And her action, spend any number of improvement tokens, then improve 1 skill of your choice for each token spent. A 2 token counts as 2 tokens. Okay. And her passive, once per round, an investigator on your space may roll 1 additional die when resolving a test. Excuse me. She has 5 health, 7 sanity, 2 lore, 4 influence, 2 observation, 2 strength, 3 will. Okay. And she gets the Derringer. You may add 1 to the result of 1 die when resolving a strength test during a combat encounter. So that doesn't give her a die. She can actually add 1 to the result. So if she rolls a 4 during a combat encounter for strength, then she actually can turn into a 5, which is useful. And her other ability is that, or her other thing that she starts with is the ability to improve 1 skill of her choice. So she can improve any one of these skills. So you give improvement tokens. So this is the strength one, for example. If you ever get to improve your strength, you put the +1 on it. And then if you can never improve it again, you put the +2 on it. And the most you can ever improve is up to +2. And the expansions, the pyramid expansion, has implemented the evil tokens where you get -1 or -2 to your skills. So that is just evil and uncalled for, I think. But that's the game. So we have to decide what do we want to improve for her. We have nobody with a really good lore. So I think I might bump her lore up to 3, maybe. Just so we have somebody who can cast some spells a little better. So I'm going to take a lore token for her. Lore is used for spell casting. And I'm going to give her a +1 lore. So she's up to 3 lore in the beginning, which is pretty good. Okay. So we'll put them on the board once we get everything else settled. I'll show you where they all start. as of now, we're just going to keep doing the board. It doesn't really matter. I mean, you're supposed to place them now. But... Well, actually, he places tokens. Yeah, well... Do we even do them? Not that it matters, but I'm just curious. Yeah, we should have already placed them on the board, but we got too much stuff on the board. So determine Ancient One. So we can either choose the Ancient One or randomly choose them. We're going to randomly choose them, of course. And then we have to resolve any setup effects on the sheet. So our Ancient Ones are right here. So here's the Ancient One sheets in Eldritch. This is the Rise of the Elder Things. We also have Yog Sothoth, Cthulhu, Shub-Niggurath, Neferin-Ka, who is from the Pyramid one, Ithaquah, who I believe is from the Alaska, Yig, who is from an expansion, Azathoth, Abhoth, who's from the Pyramids, Syzygy, I guess, who is from the one of the smaller expansions. Who's the guy? Yeah, there's Rise of the Elder Things. Who's the other one that's from... Oh, yeah. Ithaquah and Rise of the Elder Things are from Alaska. Okay, so we shuffle these guys up. And we keep shuffling. I actually have my eyes closed right now because I don't want to see who's on top. And we're going to pull from the middle. And we get... Oh, come on! Cthulhu, the big dog. I have a bad feeling about this. Oh, come on. Alright, so we have Cthulhu as our Ancient One, which means we're not using any of the sideboards in this game, because he doesn't require them. So because we're not using the sideboards, we could put away all of the stuff we're not using, which is we're not using any of the gates from Egypt, we're not using any of the gates from Alaska, nor the clues from either. So all this stuff can actually be taken off the board because we will not be using them, which just kind of sucks. I kind of would like to have used them, but the goal, I like to go random and see what happens, and I can't change my mind after we do that. So now we can actually get the gates to going together here. So just like Arkham, you have gates, you just kind of mix them up randomly. Kind of randomly place them, however, just to get a the best randomized way you can. Put him there, we'll put him there, and let's throw this one in the middle. Alright, so there's our gates. I tend to put the gates on this little space here because it just looks like it's made for it, the compass here. Okay, so because we have that done, we can now officially get, I'm going to put our health and sanity on our characters, I'm going to get our character tokens out, and move on to the next part of the game, so I'll be back in a second. Okay, so once you get the Ancient One ready, they usually have some kind of setup on their card. So, Cthulhu here's setup is to set aside one Deep One monster, one Star Spawn monster, and all Cthulhu special encounter cards. Okay? So the way the Epic Monster cards go, or the Ancient Ones, is there's a Doom track in the game, of course. This is where it starts at space 12. If any cultists come out, the cultists behave differently based on the Ancient One, so their stats are actually here on the Ancient One card. There's always stats here, things that you have to worry about for the Ancient One. And then down here is how you set up the Mythos deck. We'll get to that when we set it up. And then on the back, other things can happen. Basically, if he ever awakens, you have to flip the card and figure out what's going on the back of the card. But hopefully we won't have to do that. But I have a feeling we probably will. Okay, so we had to set aside a Deep One and a Star Spawn. So here is what the monsters look like. Here is a Deep One. You look at the back, it has their will test, their strength test, their toughness is up here in the top right, and any special abilities they have. So we have to set aside a deep one and a star spawn. So these may come into play based on Cthulhu's abilities and things of that nature. That's why we set them aside. The other great thing I love about Eldritch Horror is that the game story, the cards relate more to the Ancient One. Because unlike Arkham Horror, when you go to get a clue, in Arkham, if you go to the space, you just pick up the clue. In Eldritch, you have to actually do a test to get the clue. And the test you have to do is based on the Ancient One's cards. It's called a research encounter. So this is Cthulhu's deck for research encounters. I already shuffled it up. But basically, you draw this card, and these cards, they have a feel of the Ancient One. They're going to be talking about Cthulhu or Cthulhu's, cultists or things of that nature. So the game feels more like you're really going against Cthulhu in this game, because the cards are going to dictate the story for you, which is great. And every Ancient One has cards that dictate the story like that. He also has another deck of cards. Not all of them do. Most of them have, but not all of them. Special encounter cards. These are his here. So if something happens specific, it's going to tell us to draw a special encounter card. And then every Ancient One has mysteries. And the way you win Eldritch Horror is to solve 3 mysteries. After some of the expansions came out, we actually get 6. I think it was 4 in the main game. And they added 2 for everyone. So more variety. So you basically shuffle these up, which I've done. You would draw the top one. Once you solve the first mystery, you move on to the next one, and then the next one. And if you can solve 3 before you lose, basically, that's how you win, by solving mysteries in this game. And of course, the mysteries are related to the Ancient One again, which gives a really good story, feel, theme into the game. Okay, so that's setting up the Ancient One. We have to create our monster cup, which is already created. So just like Arkham, we have a whole bag full of monsters. Unlike Arkham, though, there's another bag of monsters that are called epic monsters. And they're these red ones. For example, the Crawling Chaos here. You can see it's a different look. While the normal monsters are white and they're a square, these are a cut on the corner. They're red borders. These monsters are much tougher normally than standard monsters, of course. They're epics, and they come into play for certain cards or certain things that happen in the game is when they come into play. They don't go in the normal monster cup. They come in based on the situation that happens. Okay, so we have done the monster cup. I've already separated and placed all the decks, and I shuffled them up. Now we have to do our expedition encounters, which is a part of the game. So these are expedition encounters. They have pictures of the spaces on the board. So this is the Amazon. This is the heart of Africa, the pyramid. So you shuffle these up. And you will cut the deck. Alright, so we shuffle them up, cut it, and whatever is on top, so we have the pyramid, is the top card of the expedition deck. Since that is the top card, you take the expedition token, which looks like this, and you place it on the space, so it's on the pyramids here. So why we do that is and then basically we go to the pyramids and we can do this specific type of special encounter called an expedition encounter, which usually gives you some good stuff, but they're a little more difficult because there's actually there's like a 2-step process. There's 2 tests instead of 1 on these that you have to solve. And then if we ever solve the pyramid encounter, or it has to go away, it gets discarded. If this top card gets solved or discarded for no reason, the next card is going to have another picture of another location. And then when that happens, we take this and move it to the other location. So it can move around the board as the game goes on. So it's not always going to be at the pyramids, basically. We shuffle our spell deck and our condition decks, which have been done. We put the mythos cards aside, and now we have to build our mythos deck. So the way you build a mythos deck, there is 3 types of mythos cards. There's yellow, green, and blue. So here's our yellow, green, and blue decks. Let me give one more shuffle to yellow since I kind of saw the card on the bottom there. Okay? So every Ancient One sheet tells you how you build the Mythos deck. So for Cthulhu, stage 1 is 2 yellows and 2 blues. Okay? So you take 2 yellow cards, 2 blue cards, shuffle them up, get a little shuffle going here. This is stage 1. This is going to go on top of the pile. So we put that off to the side. For stage 2, we have 1 green, 3 yellow, and that's it. So we take 1 green, 3 yellow, shuffle those up. Okay, and then we place step 1 on top. And then for step 3, we do 3 green and 4 yellow. So 3 green, 4 yellow. Shuffle these bad boys up a bit. A lot more cards in step 3. So the only blue cards are normally in step 1 because those are ongoing cards that stay on the board that we have to worry about. They're usually pretty nasty. So they kind of put them in the front of the deck. We have to get so we have time to get rid of them. And by the time you get to the end of the deck, you're not seeing those anymore. But hopefully they're not still on the table. So that's 3, so that goes on the bottom. So here's our Mythos deck. Right here. And if this deck ever runs out, we lose. Once we get to the last card, the game is over. So this is a timer, basically. It gets pulled at the end of every round. And now we can put all the other Mythos cards away because we don't technically need them because we have our Mythos deck. We won't be grabbing any more. So you just put them back in the box and get them out of the way. Or whatever it is you want to place them. I'm just going to put them over here. Okay, so that is how we build our Mythos deck. And now we resolve our starting effects. Oh, I didn't show where everybody started. I apologize. I kind of forgot about that part. So, Mark Harrington starts here in Northern Europe at Space 14. Lily Chen starts over here in Shanghai. Lola, the actress, in Tokyo, and Silas in Sydney. So that is where our characters are starting. I forgot to actually show that. And Cthulhu can go back here and I was feeling lucky because I beat Arkham earlier today. I'm like, maybe I'm having a good run here, but then I get Cthulhu, so maybe not. I should have waited a day. Okay, so there is an icon reference sheet for every nut when you play with however many players. This game could play between 1 to 8. So we're using the 4-player reference sheet. This tells you how many gates spawn when we have to spawn gates, 1. How many clues spawn when we have to do that, 2. And how many monster surges go on each space during a monster surge, which is 2. So if you look at the back, for a 3-player game, it's actually the same, 1, 2, 2. But this is how the game balances itself out for number of players. Like I said, it goes all the way up from 1 to 8 players. So we're playing the 4-player game. So the first thing we do is the Doom token. So up on top here is the Doom track. It's a little hard to see, I'm sure. It's up here on top. It goes from 20 all the way on the left, all the way down to 0. And if this token ever reaches 0, then the Ancient One awakens. And then we have to flip his card and deal with it. So the Ancient One sheet, they all start at different spaces. Cthulhu starts at space 12, which is not very good. Most of them start higher than that. But he is Cthulhu. He is the big dog. So he starts here at space 12. And every time we got to move it, Doom track down, of course, we go down. There are times when we could raise it based on cards and things that happen. So that'd be nice if that would happen. We place the Omen token on the green comet. So that's a new thing here. We have a little constellation thing going here. Kinda. We always start with the green comet. We have a token here. And as the game progresses, we're going to have to move this around. And you always go clockwise. So it goes from this green comet to blue, to the red, to the blue, same thing, and then back to green. Goes in a clockwise pattern, and certain cards tell us to move that, and if we ever move that on us and then there's a gate on the board that has the same symbol that we move it onto, that's when the doom track can go down. There's other things that can make the doom track go down, but that's technically the main way it does, it seems, for the most part. So like after the first turn, if we open a gate that it has the blue constellation and we have to move it on the first turn to blue, there'll be one blue gate out, the doom track will have to go down one. And that's how that works with that. Now we have to take the top 4 cards of the asset deck and place them here on our reserve. So the asset deck I shuffled up after I drew their starting items. So we have the Holy Cross, gain +2 will during combat encounters. This goes here. The Gruesome Talisman. You may add 1 to the result of 1 die when resolving a will test during a combat encounter. Okay. We have the Carbine Rifle, which is a weapon. Once per round, you may gain +5 strength during a combat encounter. That's pretty nice. And we have the Handcuffs. Before resolving a strength test during a combat encounter, you may spend 1 focus to defeat that monster if it has toughness 2 or less. Okay. So those go there. So the way this works is one of the actions you can take in the game is called acquire assets. If you're in a city and there's no monster, you roll your influence check, and however many successes you get, you can pick up one of these items. On the top left, it tells the cost. So the Carbine, you would need 3 successes. The Handcuffs, you would need 2. The Talisman, you need 1. And the Holy Cross, you would need 2. So you roll however many 5s and 6s you get is you can decide what you want to take. And at any time, as long as you don't have one, because you can't have 2, you can take a bank loan to get 2 automatic successes to add to your roll. But you have to take a debt condition, which is something that will come into play later, and most of the time it's bad for you. But if you really want something on here, you can take a debt to add 2 successes to your roll. So say we only had 1 success, we really want the Carbine Rifle, we could take a debt and get it for 3, but then we'll have to eventually pay that debt off sometime. And anytime you take 1 off of here, you just add the top card back, so there's always 4 here. So that's how that works. And now we spawn a number of gates indicated on the reference card. So our reference card says we spawn 1 gate. So we take the top gate in the stack, and we get London, and it is blue. The blue constellation, which means that there's a good chance that the doom track's going down after turn 1, unless we can close this gate. So we put the gate on London. Sits here in London, and then anytime you get a gate, you have to get a monster, just like Arkham Horror. So we go in the bag, and we pull out a cultist for our first monster of the game. So remember, the cultist has no specific stats of his own. It tells you to reference the Ancient One sheet. So based on the Ancient One sheet is how this cultist is going to act, or his power. So we throw the cultist on the board. So based on Cthulhu's sheet, for a cultist you don't have to do a will test or a horror check or whatever, but you do have to do a strength test of 1. He only has 1 hit point or 1 toughness. He can only hit you for 1 damage. But before resolving the strength test, lose 1 sanity. So anytime you fight a cultist, you have to lose a sanity, which is kind of shitty. But it is Cthulhu. What do you want? So we got the cultist out there. We place the active expedition token on the space that corresponds to it. We've actually already done that. A little out of order, but not that it matters. We placed it on the pyramids. We spawn a number of clues based on the reference card. So in a 4-player game, we spawn 2 clues. So we take the clues. So unlike Arkham, these clues actually have backs that matter. Arkham, they're the same front and back. So we grab 2 random clues. The first one, You see that it looks the same on this side, but on the back it tells you where we place it. We place it on space 18, and there's a little map to help you find it. So that is a C space down here, space 18. So we place a clue there. And then we place the next clue in Sydney. In Sydney, Australia. So right where Silas is. So he gets a clue right by him. And he's got a clue right next to him in the C space. Interesting. Okay, so that is our clues that we are able to start with. Okay, so the last thing we do is draw a mystery card and place it near the Ancient One sheet. So remember, we need 3 mysteries to win the game. So our first mystery that we have to do is Rilo Risen. Okay. Eons ago, the city of Rilo was plunged to the bottom of the ocean by some forgotten disaster. Let's see if I can get this on here better. It has remained trapped there, waiting for the right time to resurface. Now that moment is finally arrived. Okay, when this card enters play, place 1 mystery token on space 3. Okay, so a mystery token is this one. Pretty sure that's the mystery token. There's also exclamation mark. This one sounds like a mystery because it's a question mark. So on space 3, which is over here in the northwest, actually no, it's in the southwest. It's down here. So this token goes here. Okay, so let's see why. What happens? As an encounter, an investigator on space 3 may explore the island city of Rilo by resolving a Rilo Risen special encounter. So that is based on the special encounters that Cthulhu gets, that 3rd deck that he starts with. At the end of the mythos phase, if there are Eldritch tokens on this card equal to half the number of investigators, solve this mystery. So what that pretty much means is we're going to have to do one of his special encounters. And normally, for the way it's saying, is that if we succeed, we'll probably get an Eldritch token, most likely. And we put that token on the card. And if we get 2 tokens, half the number of investigators, then we can solve the first mystery. It's really not that bad. I'm sure those cards aren't good. A lot of times you have to have a clue already before you do these kind of things, something like that. This one seems like you just have to get to that space and solve the mystery, and take care of that encounter to get this. So it could say in there that you may need to spend a clue or something. We don't know until we flip the card and see what they say. But that's what we have to do in the beginning here. And that is set up for Eldritch Horror. We're ready to actually get going. There's a first player token that you would use and give to whoever we want to start with. So I'll decide that when we come back. But we do have to finish our prelude card that we picked in the very beginning, because it says, after resolving setup, place 1 Eldritch token on the green space of the omen track. Okay, so this is an Eldritch token. So we have to put it on the green space of the omen track, which is where we're starting here, the top space. Why do we have to do that? Then the lead investigator discards 1 gate on a space of his choice, or each investigator gains 1 clue and 1 focus. Huh. During this game, if Azathoth is not the Ancient One, which he's not, when the omen advances to the green space of the omen track, advance doom by 1. Oh, that just sucks. Okay, so that's normally an Azathoth thing for the Ancient One. That's one of the Ancient Ones that came with the core set. Every time we would get there, you would have to advance doom by 1. Okay, so after resolving the setup, our lead investigator discards 1 gate on a space of his choice, or each investigator gains 1 clue and 1 focus. So we get to decide, do we want to get rid of that gate right away? Or do we want to get a clue and a focus for everybody right off the bat? I think I'm going to go clue and focus. It's nice to get clues early in case we need them for maybe the Cthulhu for his mystery. I'm not sure. So I think we're going to do that. So we each get one clue and one focus. So focus are these yellow tokens. These allow you to get rerolls, basically, in the game. And some abilities, you need focus to fuel them, to be able to use them. Every character, the max any character can have is 2 focus at a time. So everybody starts with 1. And we have to draw a clue for everybody. So we just draw the bag, and we just give them to the characters. You don't look at the back of them. It doesn't matter what the back is, but you're not really supposed to look, because then you know where a clue might not pop up later. So I will not be looking. The clues, you don't really need to put them in the bag. It kind of tells you to put them face down on the table and spread them out and stuff like that, but a bag is fine as well. I find it easier to deal with them. Okay, so everybody's got a clue and a focus. We have the gate that we did not take off, so we can get that. Cthulhu is our ancient one. We have a card, which means our doom track's going to go down even faster because of that prelude card. So I don't know how we're going to do, but we'll see how we do. So thanks for watching, guys. This is a setup of Eldritch Horror, and we'll get started soon. And I'll be putting them up. And I hope those who watch enjoy it. Thanks again, and we'll see you later.